you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day in It's Just Vlogmas, where every single day at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time I am posting a video. And if you have decided to click on this video in the sea of all the other videos that there are to watch at this time, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited for today's video because we're going to be talking about the worst beauty products that I discovered in 2024, and hopefully I can steer you away from trying to discover them for yourself. There are a couple of products that I'm like, there's actually one product that I'm like, I hate it as this, but I love it as this. But aside from that, the majority of these products I just really don't like at all. I actually only have 13 products to talk about today. I feel like in this day and age, it's really hard to be so bad that it like really stands out as like such an awful product. And like, I would not even consider the majority of the products that I'm talking, like none of the products that I'm talking about today, with the exception of the one, I wouldn't even really consider them to be like mediocre in my opinion. So we're gonna be talking about the worst of the worst from this year. I think everything that I'm talking about, with the exception of maybe 2 to 3 products, I believe everything else released like this year in 2024. So if you're interested, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project painting content, palette themed content, or just chit chatting about makeup, I'd love for you to consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's get into the worst of the worst. All right, there are a few products that I no longer have in my collection because I have decluttered them. So I want to talk about those first. And the first product may have been the biggest disappointment of the year, because overall I have always been a huge fan of Dior foundations, and I thought the Dior Forever Natural Nude Foundation was going to become my favorite of all of the Dior foundations. I am someone who typically likes more like medium coverage, but I still like my skin to look like healthy skin. I don't like something totally matte. I actually tend to prefer something a little bit glowier, and I thought Natural Nude, like I already like Dior Forever Nude, which is like technically more matte, even though I think it's more of like a satin matte in my opinion. I love the Dior Glowy, but like Natural Nude, that sounds perfect. This was so dry, and this I feel like is more matte, or looked more matte on my skin than the like regular Dior Forever, which is just really confusing to me, because if you read about the Dior Forever Natural Nude, I swear it's supposed to be like lighter coverage, a little bit more natural. I don't feel like I read anything about that product being matte in the description. I really tried so hard to make this product work for me because I love Dior foundations so much. I was like, maybe I'm just having a rough skin day. Maybe I'm having a rough skin week. Maybe I'm having a rough skin month. No, that foundation just simply did not work for me. If you do have more oily skin, perhaps you would really enjoy this foundation. But for me personally, this made my skin look worse more than it made it look. It never made it look better. Okay, another foundation type of product, and I was so sad about this one, but it was the Janessa Myricks Yummy Skin Tint. So many people love this. So I purchased this during the Sephora spring sale, and this looked so bad on my skin, and I honestly can't imagine what this would look like on my skin now that I feel like my skin is more dry, as I've been using, you know, tretinoin this latter part of the year. I feel like this would look even worse on my skin. So many people, as I said, love this. Even like, I feel like dry skin girlies really like this. There was something about this product that just clung to like every dry patch I feel like that I've ever sprouted in my life. Like, it was like it would discover new dry patches I didn't even know existed. It looked so bad on my skin. I don't think I've returned a makeup product in literal years, but I actually did return that product because I knew I literally was not going to get any use out of it at all. The one good thing that came of that product though is I ended up purchasing the Supergoof like SPF screen tint, whatever that was, and I loved that. So one good thing came of the Janessa Myricks, and don't take my word for that one. So many people like it, but for me personally, that was a really bad product I tried this year. Another product that I have already decluttered, I passed it along to a different home because this fragrance just did nothing for me. It made me smell like I lived in my grandma's basement, and it was just like stale and stuffy down there. It's the Merit fragrance. And this makes me so sad because I remember when I was reading the notes about the Merit fragrance, they did send this one to me, by the way. When I was reading the notes of the fragrance, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like my, like pure, it sounds like pure perfection. It had a bit of muskiness to it. I think it had a pear note as well, which I thought would be like kind of an interesting take on a more musky scent, which I love. I love a musky scent. I love something a little bit like dirtier. I always say like I would love to make it smell like I just rolled around in leaves outside, but like in a good way. I don't like a super sweet, super gourmand scent, but this literally, I sprayed it on and instantly the first thing that came to my mind was grandma's basement curtains. However, I did say this in my initial review of this. It was like you had like a luxurious grandma and like you were staying in the basement of her like really beautiful Victorian home, but like every grandma's basement is a little bit stale because they can't get down to the basement as easily. Some of them have walkers. Like we don't need them going downstairs and potentially tripping and falling. So it's not grandma's fault that, you know, her basement smells a little bit stale, but this fragrance just, I could not make it work for me. No. It could have been my pH. Perhaps my pH balance is like all out of sorts and it just really didn't mix well with it. Probably should stay away from the men for a while if that's the case. I just take it to like a too gross level. Like, was that like not funny at all? Well, I'm still laughing to myself while talking to the camera. All right, and the final product that I actually do still have, but I'm fairly confident it's down in my car and I don't feel like running out to get it. And I discovered this last year, but towards the very end of last year, and I want to talk about it because I'm so sad about this. It is the Fresh Sugar Lip Treatments. They have reformulated, and last year towards the end of the year I purchased the original Sugar Lip Treatment because that is my favorite, and I also purchased the shade Honey, which I'm currently trying to get through. I will say I don't love the shade Honey because it's one of those like, it's a balm and it gets outside my lip lines and it literally just makes me look like I have like sore chapped lips. I remember I was wearing it this summer while I was driving up north. The person I was with at the time was like, what's wrong with your lips? Why are your lips so chapped? And I was like, oh, it's literally just my lip balm. Actually my lips, well actually I don't feel like the Fresh Sugar Lip Treatment does heal my lips back to health, so it's possible that they were also chapped at the time and still, and that's really why I want to talk about this product. Why did they change the formula? It is definitely a little bit more like drier now as you apply it, but I liked the emollient formula because it felt so nourishing on the lips, and now I feel like this does nothing for my lips. Like it literally does not hydrate my lips and it's just not a good product. I do still like the Fresh Sugar Lip Treatment in like the tub form, but what a disappointment. I'd rather reach for Aquaphor. Aquaphor for a lip balm is like, but I also love my Ulla Henriksen Palette Preserve. That's not really like a lip balm. Anyway, those are all the products that I don't currently have in my collection. Since we're on the topic of lip balms, we can talk about two other really disappointing lip balmy type of things. The first being the GlossierBalm.com. This is in the StrawberryBalm.com scent. They did send this to me and I'm very disappointed because they also reformulated, and I used to love the Balm.com, like the salve that you had to like, you know, squeeze onto your lips. This does smell really good. And honestly, I will say if this was in something that wasn't so pink, maybe I would like this a little bit better. I actually am going to give this to my daughter after my year-end declutter. I'm going to declutter this to her, but it is a brighter pink, which I do like the color. Here, I'm going to swatch it on my hand here. I like the color, but it is one of those products that just kind of like gets outside my lip lines and it just looks crazy on my lips. And I just prefer, actually I'm gonna put a little bit on now. I'll probably regret this. The one thing I will say about this is it does still feel hydrating on the lips. It doesn't feel as hydrating as their old formula. And it just feels a little bit more slippy on the lips than the old formula as well. And it just doesn't work for me like the old formula. That is not to say I won't ever try a different scent or fragrance in this. For me, it's just the pink doesn't really work because again, it kind of like slips outside my lip lines. And I did want to talk about that because it is disappointing that they changed their formula. And then the lip product that I literally just can't get over how bad I think this is the Tower 28 Lip Softy. I have the shade Dolce de Leche. First of all, this product stays on your lips. I am not kidding, and I'm not being like, I'm not exaggerating. Maybe you get a good 5 to 15 minutes of wear with this before it's all but worn off your lips and your lips are left feeling drier than when you first put this on. I also just hate the way that this applies. It is a thinner texture, and while I actually sometimes like the Carmex version of like this, the Carmex is a little bit stickier, so it's easier to apply to your lips, but because this formula is like so thin, it does not apply evenly. It's just, I do not like this. I do not like this at all. I will finish this up. Why? I don't know. I will somehow manage to finish this up, but I do not recommend this product at all. Okay, let's talk about, I have one hair product I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of random. I actually picked this up at Target. It's the Happy Hair People. I have the curl defining cream, and I also had their conditioner. This is supposed to have like a really nice scent that's supposed to like wake you up with joy in the morning. I don't love it. And that's going to be different for person to person, but I don't love the scent. And I wanted to talk about the curl defining cream as well, because I love the IGK Rich Kid for when I do like my French braids, and then it like holds my curl days to come after I take it out. This feels so thick and greasy in my hair, and almost like it like, once I take my French braids out, it almost like weighs my hair down and weighs the curl down with it. So it's just not great. I want to finish this up rather than like throw it out, but I will definitely be returning to the IGK Rich Kids is basically what I'm getting at. That is just like the perfect product for me, and I've tried other things in the past, but I think that is one thing for sure that I just need to realize that product works so well. It does exactly what I want, so why am I out here searching for the next best thing? It's not like I'm super into like testing and trying all the new hair products. IGK, especially if you have thick hair and you're looking for something to really hold a curl, it is just the best. This did not work for me. Sometimes you have to spend a little bit more for a little bit better. Okay, let's talk about the one product that I'm like, I don't like it for this, but I love it for this. It is the Milk Makeup Jelly Tint Lip and Cheek Tint. On the cheeks, I think this is absolutely awful, almost to the point of unusable. I think it blends out so patchy no matter how I apply this. I have said one other time on my channel though, my daughter loves this. She actually purchased a new shade when we were out Black Friday shopping, and I'm definitely like, when she's at her dad's, I'm definitely, you know, sneaking into her makeup bag to use this from time to time. But she like applied this to her cheeks, and then she took like a moisturizer and just like rubbed the moisturizer over it, and that actually looks so cute on her. I haven't tried that application form yet, but I think this is terrible for the cheeks. So if you're buying this for like a blush, I don't think it works. I know others out there might feel differently. I don't think it works, but I've been getting so into a lip stain this year, and this is such a good lip stain. It literally lasts all day. It truly does stain the lips. Like I could put this on my lips, go to work, be out at work for 8 to 10 hours, come back, and my lips are still stained, and I love it. I don't even have to bring this with to reapply unless I want like a deeper, darker look. Like obviously it starts to fade throughout the day, but it does such a nice job of staining the lips. And also, but with that, I will say I do find this to be quite drying on the lips, but I've been really into a color on the lips, so I'm willing to put up with the dry lips for this. So that is the one product that I'm like, don't like it for this, but like maybe this. All right, let's talk about the Flower Nose. Overall, I've been really happy with the majority of products that I received from Flower Nose this year. The only one that really just did not work for me was the Midsummer Fairy Tales highlighter. And the reason being is this is just a very sparkly highlight. I don't know if it'll catch on camera, but like when I blend it out, there is like definitely sparkle or like glitter running throughout, and it's just not exactly what I'm going for on the cheeks. But I will say, and I will say it dries down quite quickly too, so you kind of have to work fast. I will say I have used it a couple of times as like a liquid eyeshadow. I don't know if it's like okay to put around my eyes, but I have, and I haven't had any issues. And it is this really beautiful kind of like ethereal base for the eyes. Again, not the purpose of the product, but it is a way that I have found that I could repurpose this product, especially if I'm doing something a little bit more sheer. And it does have a bit of a tack to it, so it is kind of a nice base from time to time if I'm wanting something more neutral. Now, as I said, I really don't reach for a liquid shadow that frequently, so I don't see this getting a lot of use out of me. as a highlighter, this really just didn't work for me. But if you like something that has a bit of glitter running throughout, that might be a product you actually do like. That one is just strictly a preference thing for me, and I had to shout it out. Okay, a liquid eyeshadow that was extremely disappointing to me was the About Face. This is like one of the metallic, like sparkly ones. This is in the shade Smolder. And I love like a pink blue ethereal shadow, which is what I thought that this was gonna be. And it just, okay, right there swatched, it looks pretty, but it just is not as impactful on the eyes as the like Stila Wanderlust Glitter and Glow. And I ended up purchasing this over Stila Wanderlust. Like I was gonna purchase Stila Wanderlust. And then I was like, girl, you told yourself you were gonna stop buying these. I walked by this display and I was like, oh, I could purchase this because it's, I think, $11 cheaper. So I ended up getting this one, but it just doesn't give the same impact. It looks so pretty right there, of course. It's just not as impactful. I think for someone who likes something a little bit more subtle or subdued on the eyes, you would probably really love this. But I have been so into indie shadows, so like I'm used to like something like very, very intense and sparkly on the lids. That is what I go for. That is what I like. So for me, this was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think this is the worst of the worst. But I also just wanted to talk about some of like my most disappointing products of the year, and this was definitely one of them. I just shouldn't have purchased that. All right, I have one other shadow product to talk about. I actually would be curious how the Patrick Ta would layer over top of that Smolder shade. Maybe that would give it a little bit more of like a sparkle. Or honestly, on top of, anyway. The Patrick Ta duos. I only have one of the duos. I have the shade Talk to My Team, which I have heard is one of the more disappointing shadows. Like it's not, we were all led to believe they were going to be the sparkliest. Like we were led to believe this was like a clamshell at the bottom of the ocean that like rarely washed up. And this had like rare sparkly ocean pearls in it. That's what we were led to believe. This is not a clamshell that was found at the bottom of the ocean. It's just not. And it's just, I actually have used this quite a bit because it's so expensive. I'm like, well, let's use it. And it's fine for what it is. But if you are looking for like this really, really beautiful, unique, intense sparkle on the lid, this is not it. Like there are so many indie shadows that are so much better than this. And I'm disappointed in myself for buying it. I mean, I do like a lot. I am very interested and curious about Patrick Ta's brand. I've talked about this before. He is a person at this point, like I'm really off put by him as a person. And it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm never gonna buy anything from the brand again, because that's not true. There's a blush duo I still want. And who knows what else he'll come out with. I think he is really good at marketing and making us all really excited about these, you know, these things. I think he's done some really unique and different things with the way that he packages products, or just the products that he comes out with, like the duos and things like that. Not specifically these duos, but like the blush duos, the bronzer duos, the highlight duos. But after this launch, I just am, and the moldy eyeshadow and the bad like customer service around that, I'm just kind of turned off. Specifically like more at Patrick Ta. I'm not 100% the brand, even though like it should really just be, anyway, these so disappointing. I would absolutely say swatch in store before you buy, but also just go order like a couple indie singles and they'll be cheaper than that. Like honestly, you could get like 2 very, very special multi-chromes from an indie brand for about the same cost as this. Duochromes, you could probably get 3 to 4 for the price of this. So that was so incredibly disappointing. I was like ready to be like the sparkliest princess ever. And unfortunately I did not turn into a sparkly princess. All right, this, so freaking disappointing. And maybe I just got so excited because it was another Nars face palette, and I love Nars face palettes. Gosh, I can't even open this. I will be decluttering this at the end of the year. I'm like, girl. And I will say I didn't buy the Nars holiday face palette this year. I finally like started to like creep my way out of this like mentality of having to collect all of like my favorite things. I think the Nars face palette that launched this holiday was very beautiful, but I'm like, I have the majority of those shades and I just don't need them. Same thing with Nars eyeshadow, although I will say there is their holiday release on the Nars site. I'm like, okay, that's pretty and a little bit different from what they usually launch. But anyway, I purchased this in the summer and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a face palette with face products and eye products. And I just fell so head over heels in love with the Nars Summer Solstice palette and just like never looked back, and like have bought just about every Nars eyeshadow palette and face palette since. And what I've realized is with Nars, everything's the same. It's all just a repeat, and the majority of their eyeshadows are more like pink or rosy leaning, and that is just not, I prefer a brown. I prefer a warm tone brown, a cool tone brown, a blue, a green, a purple. Pink comes very much at the end, and honestly I prefer like a cool tone pink over a rosy pink. So like rosy pinks are really like, they are at the far end of what I want to reach for. So I just shouldn't have bought this. I also was like, okay, I think I just like bought before I even really digested what the product even was. Like I think I saw the eyeshadows in a face palette and I was like, oh my gosh, must have. But the highlight I will say is fine. I typically prefer a more pink highlight actually. And of course this is like the one non-pink thing in here that could be pink. And then we have like two bronzers that are pretty similar, one slightly lighter than the other. I have the Nars Laguna Sunwash Bronzer. Like I just simply did not need this product. And I will say, I believe you can still get this. I think there's so much better from Nars. Like either just buy a full face palette like this. You're not getting their beautiful blush formula in here, so I'm like, eh. And then in terms of like the eyeshadow, buy a quad, buy one of their duos, buy one of their actual palettes. This was like really lackluster. To me, this comes off like a many of you probably think that everything Nars releases comes off as a cash grab, because it literally is just like essentially repackaged things of like the same colors they always do. But like this felt like an extra cash grabby sort of situation from Nars, and I'm disappointed in myself for buying that. All right, and then two final products. Okay, Bare Minerals sent over a few of their skin perfecting matte liquid foundations, the 24-hour Bare Pro. I have the shade 15 Neutral still left. I have given the other shades to friends or family, and this I wanted to love so badly. I was so excited. I think this is the first product that Bare Minerals ever sent to me, and it's always just so exciting. Like, it's always so exciting to get any PR, but it's exciting when like a new brand reaches out to you and you're like, oh my gosh, how the heck did Bare Minerals ever find me? So I wanted to love this so bad. I also feel like Kelly Gooch always speaks really highly about Bare Minerals, and I really trust her reviews, even though we don't always love the same things. But I was just so excited about Bare Minerals, and this is just way too matte for me. If you have oily skin, this would probably be such a good product for you. It is really nice and thin. Like, it does not feel heavy on the skin, but this just looked so heavy and so dry on my dry skin. This formula is just not for me. And if you have dry skin, I would stay far away from this. If you don't like a matte product, stay far away. I even tried mixing this with like a glowier product. I mixed it with like my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, and nothing could make this look good on my skin personally. So that was a fail. And then the final fail, and this is such a disappointment, and I like teeter-tottered? Almost said teetered and tottered. Well, I guess I did teeter and totter. I teeter-tottered on this, okay? This is the Fenty Beauty We're Even concealer. I feel like Fenty complexion products, like their foundations for the most part, their concealers, they typically don't work for me. I do really like Fenty Beauty, like color cosmetics, lip products. I haven't really been a big fan of the eyeshadows in the past, but I was going back and forth. I was doing that teeter-tottering thing with this because I was not a fan of the original Fenty concealer. It was way too drying underneath the eyes. But then I was just getting excited about trying new makeup, so I purchased this, and this, in like the tube, it looks like it should be this like beautiful glossy hydrating concealer, and it just is like dry underneath the eyes. It just looks dry. I don't like it. I feel like for the most part, Fenty complexion is like more geared towards combo, oily. Doesn't work for me in my dry skin. Maybe there's dry skin girlies out there that love the Fenty complexion products, but this just looked dry, aged my under eyes, and it just wasn't it for me. So that was my final fail of 2024 in terms of makeup. At least we had some other fails here and there, but that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch. I'd love to know in the comments below what were some of the worst products you tried this year. Let us all know what we need to stay away from. Other than that, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.